Hello, everybody, and welcome to Cinematic UniVersus. I'm your co-host, Kyle Torres.
And I'm the other co-host, Andrew Carten.
And today we're going to be talking about Bigfoot Vs DB Cooper.
God.
So, we did hint at our opinions on this in the last episode.
Oh yeah, hinted is the word.
This is not nearly as fun as Billy the Kid versus Dracula. I think it's easy to say that.
I'd say it's the same level as of bad, just in different ways, and because of that, it's not so bad. It's good.
I would actually say it's worse in terms of most aspects. I would say every aspect than Billy the Kid versus Dracula.
Yeah, I'll give it to you.
Because another thing I didn't mention about Billy the Kid versus Dracula, we'll get into more of this in the opinions part, but at least in Billy the Kid, there was some effort put into the design, into production design, costumes, and all that. Here, there is none.
Okay. Yeah,
There's really nothing. But anyway, just some quick information on Bigfoot vs. DB Cooper. It was released on July 1st, 2014, directed by David Duchovny, who you might know from A Talking Cat, and also over 150 other films. All mostly as homoerotic, if not more than this one.
It says all homoerotic in the notes. Is A Talking Cat homoerotic?
There are moments.
Okay.
If you haven't seen A Talking Cat, you should. That's a lot of fun. Part of it is because there are some weirdly homoerotic moments in that.
Noted.
But the stars of this one are Jordan Rodriguez as Bernie.
Or as I call him, Shirtless Man Number 1.
And then Eric Roberts as older Bernie, which is to say the narrator. And you may know him from The Dark Knight and Inherent Vice.
In The Dark Knight, I believe he was Salvatore Maroni. Or it said Maroni.
Yeah.
I think it's Salvatore.
And he's also done a lot of other work, mostly in smaller kind of roles, but in particular, he was also the voice of the cat in A Talking Cat.
This is definitely the highlight of his career.
Absolutely. And then we have Terrence J. Rotolo as DB Cooper, who you might know from Dead Rising, and also the actress Linnea Quigley as the stewardess.
I feel like we shouldn't have her in this list.
You see, I would agree, but the thing is, her name is on the top billing for the poster of this movie.
Of course it is. Okay, fine, I guess.
And also, as we've been informed, several actors were concerned about if this movie was porn. And to which the director said that Linnea Quigley was in this movie. It's a legitimate film because of that. And no one really knew what that meant.
No one knew her.
And in particular, she wasn't on set for the film, ever.
Because
her only role was a voiceover.
Yeah. One line, too.
Interesting stuff there. Do we want to start breaking down this plot?
Yeah, let's try to finish this before the movie would have finished.
Okay.
Let's try to have this be more meaty than that movie was.
All right. So, the movie begins, as most movies do, with 11 minutes of walking.
I thought you were going to say, it begins, like most movies.
No. We start with 11 full minutes of Bernie walking in the woods, with the only narration being, hey, there was this one weird day. It started when I was walking in the woods.
And see, it's got, some of it I will admit as excusable, because for some of it does have the opening credits playing. And that's understandable. Even if you're doing nothing, fine.
But boy, do they stretch.
Yeah, because there's solid 5-minute spans where they don't put any fucking names on the screen. You're like, oh, okay, the name part, the intro credits are done. And then it just comes back.
Yeah.
Before the walking's done and after the walking's done. You're like, why?
Why is this happening? So that goes on for 11 very draining minutes.
Yeah, I was done with the movie by the time we were at minute 6.
It's really tough to try and get into this movie, or any movie, I would say, when the first 11 minutes of a 75-minute long movie are almost entirely filler. Eventually he finds his way to a house full of 5 or 6 different guys.
Yeah, all of them are like generic white fucking teenage shirtless men, with the exception of one twink that like
that starts off wearing a shirt
and then doesn't.
And then he doesn't, but at first we were like kind of like interested that this one actor was probably not sure what he was signing up for.
I will give this movie this. It is interesting in the fact that they made one character the most interesting character in the whole movie just by giving him a shirt.
You know, I'll give you that. That in most movies, having a character simply wear a shirt does not make them the most interesting character.
Exactly, but like, I was like, why is he wearing a shirt? Is he gonna be wearing it for the whole movie? Why aren't the other ones wearing any fucking shirts? Like, I don't get it.
So eventually he goes up to this house, and the other guys say, "Want to go hunting with us?"
To which the only reply is, "Sure." And hold on, I'm gonna.
Yeah, you break this down. You break this scene down for us.
So there are roughly 6 teenage men in this movie, all staying in this house, and when they're like, "Yeah, sure, let's go hunting," some of them just disappear for no reason, really. Like, maybe they went hunting, maybe they didn't, but like, while that's happening, each individual one in their own 5-minute montage goes into a random room in the house and starts like admiring themselves in the mirror, and then they grab the gun and start admiring themselves in the mirror, and then they take off their pants, keep their underwear on, but take off their pants and admire themselves in the mirror a little bit with the gun. And then they're like, okay, I'm going to put those same exact clothes back on and just bounce. And
when you describe it, it doesn't seem real.
I know, right? And it happens the same exact way for each character for like 5 minutes per character. So it's a solid, 30 minutes?
Yeah, it goes on for about 25 minutes of just doing the literal same scene 6 times over. And I'll grant you one. I will grant you one. But they still pad it out so much, even within that one that they're allowed.
Because it's 5 minutes of the same type of idea.
It's so long. It is such a draining sequence. Like, even more than walking in the woods for 11 minutes. This is pretty draining.
Yeah.
But at least
twice as long.
Yeah, it's twice as long, but you know what? I'll at least grant it that every time a character leaves, it's kind of like the John Mulaney What's New Pussycat bit, where you're just desperately hoping that another character won't come upstairs to get dressed.
Oh my god. And like, every time, like, I see them walk into a room, because going in, I didn't know there was going to be this many montages of that happening.
Yeah.
Every time they went into the room, I'm like, no, it can't be. No. And it felt like a personal loss it felt like someone in my immediate family died every time, because I just lost a part of me every time. And I can never get that time back.
Yeah, it's just gone. So you might be wondering, where is Bigfoot and DB Cooper during all of this? The answers are, Bigfoot is walking around in the woods.
To be fair, he does get B-roll shots of him every so often. It's the same, 6 B-roll shots.
Yeah, but as is the style of this film, is reusing B-roll footage 10 times over.
And so
while Bigfoot is doing all that, DB Cooper is basically doing his DB Cooper thing.
Yeah, he's wearing a suit and tie.
He's wearing a suit and tie. He's on the plane. He's making all the threats and everything.
I'm gonna do the job.
Yeah.
I got bomb. He's got bomb, according to me.
Yeah, and meanwhile, the Eric Roberts narration is running over all of this pretty much, and then it happens exactly the same.
Right.
So it's just, even then it gets redundant. He's just like, yep, he was still on the plane trying to do this. Meanwhile, you're still using the same B-roll footage. Sometimes you flop sometimes you flip it, sometimes you speed it up. But it's the same B-roll footage of an airport.
This whole movie felt like I was watching a trailer that someone was like, yeah, let's just stretch it out for as long as we can get someone to watch this for.
Yeah. Which I think saying that is pretty generous.
Yeah, right.
So they're doing their own things, completely separate from the movie, until Bigfoot eventually starts picking off each of the shirtless boys one by one. In particular, I think the first one is probably the most notable.
Where because it was surprising, to be honest. Yeah. I was like, oh, he's actually doing stuff this movie.
So, one of the shirtless guys decided to stay back at the house, and he was showering. And then Bigfoot...
Hold on. Before we get into Bigfoot coming into this, because Bigfoot does do some weird, very sensual things to this man. The dude does just start jacking off in the shower.
I totally forgot that he just...
he starts jerking it. Like... And it doesn't show his little bits down there. It doesn't show his body parts.
This is a PG-13 Bigfoot versus DB Cooper movie.
We have standards. But see, it does show, like, shots of his face as he's, like, doing the deed. And, like, this was worse than watching them just fucking doing their poses. Because, like, yeah, sure, let's have a little fucking homoeroticism. That's fine. Sure. Why not? I don't mind it. In all honesty, that's cool. But, like, we just had a half hour of dudes being fucking...
Yeah.
Just a couple of guys being dudes. Just a couple of dudes being guys. Show me your dick, Steve. We had a bunch of that. And then fucking... We get, like, what? Fucking... Another 6-minute montage of him in the shower, and then he starts jacking off. I'm like...
And Bigfoot is slowly walking through the house as this is happening.
It kind of felt like when you're watching one of those... Like, when you're watching a porn, and, like, someone's just in the fucking shower, and it's like... What? What are you doing here?
Oh, yeah, because he reacts pretty, like, restrained for the fact that Bigfoot is not only real, but in your house, and watching you jerk it.
I was honestly expecting them to start boning.
Oh, yeah, because Bigfoot really feels this guy up.
Yeah, so he takes his big hand, finger.
As Bigfoot is known for, his big hands and fingers.
He is big appendage man. He takes those hands and he just gently caresses it up the guy's body, all the way up to like his neck, and then back down, getting real close to the junk.
Oh yeah.
And the guy isn't screaming, like he's not trying to back away. He's just taking it. He's taking it like a champ. Fucking power bottom move right there.
Yeah.
And then, finally, he screams, and Bigfoot kills him, because apparently that's the deal breaker.
That's it for him. Like, so, you know, besides that, people are pretty much just getting picked off one by one. There's nothing truly special about the way that Bigfoot kills them. I think literally every time he just, like, scratches at them, or just, like, beats up.
Exactly.
The real difference is just where he does it. Because, like, there's one time I remember that it was outside a pool.
Yep, the pool and the shower are the two things I remember.
Yeah. I think everyone else... Oh,
it was just
right.
outside.
I remember at one point, we started identifying all the different boys by, like, what pants they were wearing.
Yeah, because they look identical.
Yeah.
And
so, another point for this movie... I've never seen a movie where the characters can all be identified by what pants they're wearing.
And I know I took a tally mark of how often they took
pants
off
and
their...
shoes.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah.
I took a tally of how often they took off their shirt and or pants.
Yeah.
And I don't have that with me. But I do remember that they took off their pants exactly 9 times throughout the movie. And the shirts, I want to say, was in the 13 to 17 range.
Yeah.
I think it was roughly that. That said, I did have a point I was going to make. Oh, yeah. So, Bigfoot. The suit is, like, real bad. Like, you can see the zipper in some scenes.
Yeah. You can just see it totally on the back. You can see, like, the seams between the hands and all that.
What it honestly reminds me of.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry to keep, like, referencing different pieces of media.
Oh, it's fine.
But, in that one episode of SpongeBob where Patrick is, like, in a gorilla suit.
Oh, yeah,
and then there's that actual gorilla.
Yeah.
Like, it looked exactly like that fucking gorilla suit. Like, I can't explain it any better than that. it didn't look like a Bigfoot suit so much as it looked like a shitty gorilla suit that someone just like modified slightly.
Yeah. So pretty much after that, by then they've padded this movie out so much that we're pretty much at the end already. Because there's really not much that goes on in this movie. We actually kept a track of how much of this movie you could actually keep. And if you wanted to like make it as a proper movie with like good pace, well, not even good pacing, but just pacing. Like acceptable pacing.
We were being very generous with the time.
We were being very jealous.
Jealous? God, I wish I could make a very homoerotic movie like this. Oh, why do they get the big, sexy Bigfoot? And all we get is just a puny Dracula and Billy the Kid. We didn't have enough sex in Billy the Kid versus Dracula, I'm telling you.
That's true.
Not enough shirtless men. All we got was Thorpe.
But we were being very generous. We allowed for almost one full version of the undressing and then dressing back up sequence.
Because we allow, because,
directors have their things that they like to go back to and they obsess over, and it's fine.
And montages aren't unheard of. Plenty of movies have them, and it's understandable. Sometimes it shows the passage of time, sometimes it shows people learning things, it's fine.
Yeah. So, after being very generous with how much time we gave this movie to linger on things... Including B-roll. Out of the 75 minutes in this movie, we kept about 25 minutes. You could probably cut it even more so that this film that's feature length currently could run as a TV episode.
Yeah. In short, about 1/3 of this movie is usable. Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Hard maybe.
I think it's just about time that we get into the climax of the movie. The only part of the movie these people should watch.
Yes, because even though, as unappealing as this movie sounds, because of all of its padding and just its completely boring nature, its redundancies and all that, the laziness of the filmmaking, it has what might be one of the best goddamn endings that we'll probably ever get in one of these dumb movies.
It's a shame we have to get it out this early. But this made my opinion of the movie go from a 1 out of 10 to about a 2.5 to a 3 out of 10.
Okay.
It's so fucking buck wild.
Oh, yeah.
None of it you could have seen coming.
So, DB Cooper eventually jumps out of the airplane with the money and all that.
Yep. And
he lands in the same forest that everyone's been hunting and getting killed in. Yep. The only shirtless boy left at this point is Bernie. Bernie Sanders. Canonically.
This is a young Bernie. Older Bernie is actually, the narrator is actually Bernie Sanders.
Yeah.
This is him on one of his fucking tours when he was running for presidency.
At his rally, he's just going off about the one time that...
And everyone's like, what the fuck is he talking about?
So DB Cooper jumps out of the plane and he lands in the forest right around where Bernie is, and eventually Bigfoot shows up also there. They're not drawn together. Bigfoot just sort of appears whenever it's convenient.
Yeah, he's not the monster we wanted, but he's the one the script needed.
I wouldn't say he's either. I don't think he's the monster we wanted or needed.
There is one undisputable argument, though.
Yeah.
That's that he's the monster that we got to watch feel up some poor teenage man.
Who's out there. And for that poor actor who's out there, if you somehow managed to find this, we want to sincerely apologize.
On behalf of Big Feet everywhere.
Oh, God. But anyway, going back to this incredible climax. Mm-hmm. So even though this movie pads its time so long, the actual fight between DB Cooper and Bigfoot lasts a little bit less than a minute.
Yeah. Is the biggest, the whole movie, and this is gonna sound weird since the whole movie was super homoerotic, but the whole movie is the biggest cock tease of just, oh yeah, you're gonna see Bigfoot and DB Cooper fight. And then it's the least satisfying thing you can see when
the
they
fight
actually
itself
do.
is so boring and bland. They just sort of toss each other around a bit, whatever. And then eventually, Bigfoot like pulls at DB Cooper's arm, and it sounds like he breaks it.
Yeah.
So, DB Cooper does shoot Bigfoot, and Bigfoot dies. And then Bernie goes over.
Hold on, can we just take a moment here to appreciate the fact that we've watched 2 movies, both of which included a monster, and both of which the succeeded.
That's true.
In killing the monster. So, good job, us.
Good job for the people.
Yeah.
Good job for humans. Give yourself a pat in the back.
Anyway.
So anyway, DB Cooper shoots Bigfoot, and Bigfoot dies.
Yeah.
And then Bernie's like, "Hey, do you need any help? You look really hurt. I think he hurt your arm." And DB Cooper's response is,
"Run! I've been marked."
With a terrible voice changing effect on it as he's starting to scream on the ground. And Bernie's like, What are you talking about? And he says that he was marked, and then he runs off, and that Bernie runs off, and then the older Bernie narrator comes in with a wild sentence.
I want to say you could not make this up, but someone had to make this up in order to put it in there. So I don't even know what to say. I can't describe this in any fucking way. Words can't describe it.
So, as Bernie is running away, older Bernie narrates
as we're panning backwards from just the woods.
Yeah, that ever since that day, no one has seen DB Cooper. I mean Bigfoot. Since that day.
What? Movie. Are you what? I don't. You've done plenty of things in this whole movie, and honestly, for the first time, I simultaneously am and cannot seem to fathomably pick up what you're putting down.
It's so weird and out there, and I love this movie for that, but only for that. Because I cannot stand the rest of this movie. Let's go into opinions at this point.
I really like to imagine, we went in with the last episode, that I like to imagine that, I forget his name, Thorpe. Thorpe. That fucking Thorpe started his own cattle ranch, whatever the fuck I said.
Yeah.
His own stable. In this, I like to imagine that, on the plane, DB Cooper marked someone of his own, so now they have to, their body will not let them go without, unless they, what they have to do is rob from planes and parachute from them. So, every so often, they go home to their wife, and they're like, "Ugh, gotta go to work again." "Honey, you've been hunted. You're being hunted. You've been hunted for 3 years. Please stop." And it's a living. It's just... I like to imagine that every character in every movie now can mark someone, and they become the version of that character.
So, yeah, let's get into our opinions about this.
As we know, is how being John Malkovich happened.
Oh, yeah.
John Malkovich marked someone, and they became John Malkovich.
And you're not far off either. So anyway. Opinions about Bigfoot versus DB Cooper. I hate this movie so much until that ending. That ending almost saves this movie. I still wouldn't recommend you watch the whole thing. But if you can,
if we get time, I kind of want to make
the edited 22-minute long version.
Yeah, the audience's cut.
The audience's cut.
Where it's just, oh yeah, this is a movie. It's not nearly as homoerotic, it's not nearly as time-wasting. Mm-hmm. But you'll have what there is of a plot.
Yeah.
DB Cooper will still only be in it for approximately 2.5 minutes.
Yeah.
But you'll see Bigfoot a little bit more percentage-wise.
Yeah.
I mean, suppose the same is true for DB Cooper, but fucking... I want to make that, but honestly, I don't think I can bring myself to watch the movie again.
Yeah, I can't give this movie a full recommendation on even as a so bad it's good level, because almost 100% of this movie is just unwatchable not, like I said, not even in terms of entertainment. It's not a fun movie to watch. Until those last goddamn 5 minutes.
Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to say, if you're sober watching the movie, only watch the last 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Although, I'm coming up with this right on the spot. Tell me if you think this is a good one.
Okay.
DB Cooper versus Bigfoot drinking game. I'll give you the rules. Anytime you see a montage happening... anytime someone takes off a shirt, drink. If they take off their pants, drink twice.
Are you sure about that?
Yes. Anytime you get confused as to which character is which, because they all look the goddamn same, drink. Anytime you see Bigfoot in B-roll, drink. And anytime they reuse a B-roll shot you've already seen, drink.
That goes pretty hard.
Yeah.
In that case.
I feel like...
But no, I can get on board with it. In terms of personal opinions, I just don't like this.
Yeah, no. It's not so bad it's good. It's so bad that I wish it didn't have the one redeeming quality. Yeah. So I could just straight out be like, don't watch this movie.
Yeah. It's such a good ending that it just fumbles up the entire system of recommendation. But
I've never seen a movie quite like this, where it's like, oh my god, the whole movie is just the worst garbage fire I've ever seen. Yeah. But one part of it makes me still want to recommend it to people. Like, I've never seen a movie like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like...
I've seen movies where I like most of it, but then the last few minutes will make me, like, kind of leave a sour taste in my mouth.
Exactly. This is the carbon opposite.
Yeah.
And it's so rare.
It's really rare that the opposite happens. So to fit this into our cinematic UniVersus... it doesn't share anything in common with Billy the Kid versus Dracula.
That we know of.
But in terms of slapping a date on this for any future films that reference either Bigfoot or DB Cooper, the entire film takes place on the same day as DB Cooper makes his escape, which is on November 24th, 1971. Okay,
so right now we have a movie that takes place in 1880 and another one that takes place almost 100 years later. I'm glad that this movie has a pretty condensed chunk of time that we're dealing with.
To be fair, not that anything ever feels like 1971.
No, that's
everything
true.
Feels much more like it happened about 5 years ago.
I like how we've left 100 years of time untouched so far, theoretically, in our timeline, and we still haven't gotten to present day yet.
That's true. We still aren't even caught up to today. All right, so takeaways. Time for our takeaways.
Yeah.
So, what did you take away from this movie? What would you say is the moral?
The moral of this story. You know what? The moral of this story is that, according to the director, being gay will get you killed.
Ooh.
I don't agree. But hear me out. Every character was shown in a homoerotic sense,
except for DB Cooper,
who survives. He technically survives.
Well, also Bernie still lives.
Okay, that's fair. But we gotta admit, only one surviving homoeroticized, if that's a word, character survives out of 5 or 6.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem like pretty good odds. Plus,
it's true.
Plus, Bigfoot is supposed to be the bad guy in this. Like, Bigfoot is the antagonist. And it shows him doing some pretty sexual stuff there.
Perhaps is Bigfoot a symbol for the AIDS epidemic that was about to rise up in the 1980s?
I didn't think of that beforehand, but actually, now that you pointed it out, I wouldn't be that... Like, the math kind of checks out with the percentage of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna make some fucking does Bigfoot is gay joke, but no, that actually, like...
So that's my takeaway, then.
Okay,
that this film is one of the unspoken, still not good, but it's an unspoken film about the AIDS epidemic.
Why you gotta show me up like that? Fucking make me look like a dipshit?
Only on episode 2, baby.
Oh, now I need to fucking make myself look more smart and shit in the fucking future. How dare you? No, I'm changing my takeaway.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, what's your takeaway then?
My takeaway is to do crimes.
Crimes?
DB Cooper survived. He was also the coolest character in the movie.
But at what cost?
He still survived.
As Bigfoot.
Yeah. Who's to say he's not going to survive longer now because he's Bigfoot?
That's true. That is true.
So, DB Cooper survived. Also, arguably the coolest crime committed in history.
That's, I'll give you that.
So, do crimes.
All right.
It's super cool.
All right, so to get ready for the next episode, last episode we sort of just told you what the next episode would be, but we figured out a way that might make it a little more interesting, a little more fun. It's basically like 2 truths and a lie, but it's the opposite. We'll have 3 movie titles. One of them is true, and the other 2 are false. One of us will recommend a movie per week, and the other person doesn't know what that is until this very moment.
Yep, I don't know what a movie is. I've never heard of them.
What are they? How do they work?
I believe I've listened to one on my iPod.
Oh, yeah.
I love listening to movies on my Walkman.
So the 3 movie titles that I have for you
Yep.
are Angels vs. Humans,
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys vs. Aliens,
Mm-hmm.
and Cops vs. Thugs.
Okay. I'm going to explain my logic behind what I'm not choosing. Cowboys vs. Aliens is on there, and I think that you're trying to make me think that it's Cowboys and Aliens, the movie starring Daniel Craig, which is called Cowboys and Aliens, so it's not a versus movie. Angels vs. Humans, I'm actually kind of interested in.
Yeah.
But I don't know why, I'm getting a real Angels in the Outfield vibe from it. I can't explain it other than the fact that Angels is in the title.
Angels in the outfield, but they're fighting the people in the ballpark.
If you fight them, they will come. So I'm going to have to go with Cops vs. Thugs, because I think that can also be, like, a serious movie.
Yeah, and you would be absolutely correct.
Hell yeah.
Next episode, we'll be watching Cops vs. Thugs. It's available on Amazon Prime, just like this film, Bigfoot Vs DB Cooper. Not recommended you watch that, but we do recommend you watch...
we do?
We do recommend you watch... Well, just to be ready for the next episode.
Okay, sure.
I would recommend you give Cops vs. Thugs a watch if you have the availability to.
He's being your mom telling you to do homework? No. Just listen to us. We'll explain the movie. Don't do your homework. It's fine. You'll manage.
Do crimes.
That's the main takeaway from this podcast. Do crimes.
If there's one thing you should learn from watching this movie and listening to this podcast, it's to do crimes.
Steal from the rich. Specifically.
All right, we'll see you in the next episode.
Mwah.
Mwah.
Thank you for listening to My Favorite Murder.
We would appreciate it if next time you listen to our podcast, Cinematic UniVersus. This episode was brought to you by crayons, because coloring with pencils is wax.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. Those accounts can be found in the description.
And subscribe to us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found. I've been Kyle Torres.
And I've been Andrew Carten.
And this was Cinematic UniVersus.
Got a dab on them.